There we go, folks. Here, bull marks on 305 numbers after the name. A little games beating action here, man. A little Final Fantasy VII remake. Not in the grade. We'll do that maybe next week. But for now, we're just going over here with the remake. I haven't played when this came out. Just give you a little backstory on me and Final Fantasy VII. I've heard it's the best Final Fantasy ever made. I'm partial to the SNES ones personally because I play those a little bit more. I believe I've beaten 3, which is 6 in the States. I forget the names of them. And the other one I've played a good amount as well. I don't know, I don't remember off the top of my head like that. But after that, I kind of tapped out of Final Fantasy. So I didn't play 7. Heard it's amazing. I actually bought it for PS1 so I could play backward compatible on the PS2. Never fully got around to it because of how long I figured the game was, and I was just never in the mood for it. So the remake was kind of interesting to me, but it doesn't speak to me necessarily from a nostalgia kind of perspective. I'd seen it, it looked good, I wasn't too crazy about it, I didn't get it when it came out. It's on the PlayStation Plus now service. I'm pretty confident actually about that. That's where I got it because I didn't buy it, so yeah, I think they gave it away for free once. Either way, so I got around to playing it over here a couple weeks ago, months ago at this point. I must say, I was very, 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 very impressed. Once again, take it from somebody who enjoys RPGs, played Final Fantasy before, but I'm talking about like way, way back. Hasn't played any of like the modern kind of Final Fantasy games. I haven't played 15 yet either, for example. So I was kind of going into this a little bit blind in terms of what it was going to look like. Graphically, amazing, stunning. I played it on the PS5. I believe it's still the PS4 version on the PS5. I'm not 100% sure about that. But I played on the PS5. Looks amazing. Runs smooth. The combat system to me is really what sold it. It's a really, I feel, cool mix and blend. And I believe you can just play it how you used to play it. There's like a classic mode that I haven't dabbled in, but I assume that plays like, you know, Final Fantasy VII played like back in the day. I played with the newer version of it where there's some real-time kind of combat aspects to it where you could see me kind of slashing about and stuff that builds up stagger meters, and also you're able to pull up like a quick time menu kind of on the side where the actions slow down, still happening but slow down, and it allows you to kind of pick, hey, what are like these teammates going to do, how to use your spells and whatnot. I think it's an outstanding way to compromise both systems from back in the day to here. It's got kind of the build-up kind of stuff that you see in Final Fantasy games in terms of when you're actually going to be able to use stuff. I couldn't be happier about how smooth everything ran on this game and played. And for me, the combat system had depth to it. It had fun to it. You could expand stuff. You could add your materia that had different like kind of spells and stuff like that. I think it's wild, as someone who knows how long Final Fantasy VII is, that this remake is going to be, I don't know, 3 parts, I guess? I mean, at least 2. I don't know how much more there's going to be. I think 3 parts. But to, like, flesh out that kind of detail is pretty cool. Story-wise, I mean, it's a Final Fantasy game. I mean, I don't know. I was fine with it, but yeah, it's a little bit outrageous. It's a little bit out there. You kind of expect that in these kind of things. Everything's, like, pushed to, like, the 1,000th degree when it comes to seriousness or not seriousness about things. Overall, though, if you're kind of like thinking about, hey, like, do I dabble into this? Do I get my feet wet in a Final Fantasy game? I think this would be about as good of a place to start as any. I think it could be a little bit intimidating to go back and play some of the older games. They're just not as forgiving. I assume you could now like play maybe on an emulator or even play them on some sort of system where you could save state kind of things. And that will help you out a little bit. Then when you die, you go like all the way back kind of thing, or you lose from like your last save kind of stuff. Because that can be pretty punishing, especially in those old games. But this to me adds a lot of versatility and a lot of different ways to kind of play and experience a classic like Final Fantasy VII. It runs. I couldn't be more surprised. And if I had to give it a grade, I'd probably give it like a 9.5 out of 10. I will probably dock just 0.5 on like kind of just the ridiculousness a little bit of something like the story. You know, some things require maybe a little bit better explaining than not, but whatever. It's very, 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 very minor kind of things. I mean, just look at the particle effects, man. Like, this game looks stunning, man. We're talking about a PS4 game put on a PS5. Like, I can't even imagine what this would look like if it's running. Like, you know, when we get Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 for the PS6 in like 8 years, I can't even imagine how good that's going to look. Or even Final Fantasy 16, which is coming out here, I think, in the summer. And then, you know, the trailers and all that make it kind of look solid and good. There's no doubt about it. But I'm very curious to see how that kind of plays out, and to see Final Fantasy kind of coming back and being its own kind of like big thing. Because it did fade away there for like a little bit, I felt like. And obviously it split off with 13 and online components and stuff like that. So it's taking a bunch of different turns, and 15 with its own kind of beast. They're all kind of unique in that way, which is pretty cool to have a series that each one's unique. But Final Fantasy VII Remake, I would highly, highly, highly recommend, especially if you have a PlayStation. Pop this bad boy in. If you like RPGs, there's no better place to go for one of these.